Hey guys, thank you so much for stopping by the garden today. We're sitting outside with my succulents here because I just wanted to explain some things that are starting to go on. So these are my highlight succulents and they stay on this cart here. I had taken my shade cloth off because we are in October now and the sun's a little less strong than it usually is during the summertime. So I don't need to protect them from the excessive sunlight that much during the months of the end of September into October and then up until like May of next year. They can grow without a shade cloth on them. But we're up to the point where they're doing really, really well. As you can see, we have a lot growing on the succulent cart on the top and the bottom. Let's give you a little look-see so you can see they're starting to do really well. Now, they did stretch some of them just from the rainy season we were in. So we get into the rainy season here in Florida where my plants like to stretch out a lot, especially like echeverias and stuff like that. My graptopetalums, my ghosty down here. It's actually a graptopetalum paraguayans. And this one's starting to stretch a little bit, and this happens. You can see this is starting to grow really well. We had propagated this from just leaves, so it was a little cutting potted up like this. It was a couple little cuttings that from leaves and just a few little cuttings I took off of a plant, and this is what we got from it. So this is what that's going to grow into, and you can see that these like to stretch just a little bit when we are in the rainy season. So you can see these are supposed to grow really, really close together. Instead, they're starting to spread apart. And that's okay because you can see how many babies they push out. So this one's going to fill out nicely. But echeverias tend to elongate a lot. Now this is a echeveria black prince, I believe. Not a black knight. And this has really green foliage and it turns black to purplish on the top when it gets a lot of sun. Let me see if you guys can see that, sorry. So it turns black to purplish when it gets a lot of sun, and it has some red in there as well. And these have been growing really well, but I noticed these past couple of weeks, this last week, I haven't had to water as much as I normally do because the heat is coming down. Now, we're getting temperatures still at 93 during the day, but at least the nighttime's coming down to like 70 degrees. So I know that my plants aren't going to suck up as much water as they would in 95 to 112 degree weather that we were having. And the more humidity you have around, the less waterings you're going to notice you'll need. Now, this little echeveria really stretched out quite a bit, as you can see from being in the rainy season, but she's starting to grow nice and compact on top. So I know I'll have a really compact rosette on top that we'll be able to cut. We'll cut this top off and propagate that top rosette that's really growing clumpy together, and then this will start shooting out babies and will propagate a lot of these leaves. But this little girl is actually due for a nice watering because her leaves are really deflated on the bottom. As you can see, we can kind of bend these leaves so they're wrinkly and they're deflated. It's not overwatered. Overwatered, they would be really yellow brown and they'd start exploding. So I just wanted to show you guys how I water. Now I just water all the way through till it seeps out of the bottom. You can see that that water should drain out of that top down really quickly with some nice draining soil. I plant all these succulents that I have. I grow a lot indoors and out. This is just part of my outdoor collection. I have a lot of other plants that I grow out here as well as indoors in my eastern facing exposure, and this is how I water all of them. I don't touch any foliage. I just water all the way through. We have some rocks in there, some nice river rock to showcase these succulents. A lot of them have rock on the cart here, and we're just going to water. We're going to let it seep through a little bit, wait a minute, and if it's not seeping through, I just go ahead, add a little more. I don't do a lot at once because I don't want to overflow this container, but you definitely want to make sure they're soaked all the way to the bottom till it runs out, just like that. Then discard any tray. If you do have a tray underneath, I would recommend you putting a tray under here just so it doesn't go all over the place. But once it seeps out of the bottom, you can disregard any of that water that's in the tray after about 15 minutes. And this little succulent's good to go for about another week or so. Now that's all going to depend because succulents are all different. This one might need a little less water than that one, but it's all going to depend. So whatever succulent you have, just go ahead and feel the bottom leaves. If they feel deflated, it's time to water again. And after a while, you should notice a little schedule. So I do that in the beginning of the fall, in the beginning of the summer, in the spring and summer. This way I can tell, okay, my plants are going to need like two waterings during the summertime and maybe one time a week in the fall and winter, to once every month in the winter time. These, now that we're getting into fall, they're going to slow down with as much waterings as I usually give them in the summertime. So the waterings are going to slow down now to about once a week instead of twice a week or 3 times a week with some of them. It's going to slow down to about once a week. And I know next month it's going to slow down even more because succulents stop growing in the winter time. Most of my succulents here are dormant, so so they're winter dormant. They go dormant in the winter and they grow in the summer. Some of them I have, they're actually winter growing, and they go dormant in the summer, so they don't grow in the summer and they don't need much water. So knowing the dormancy of your plant is really important with succulents, because you don't want to overwater your plant. And I tended to overwater a lot when I first started growing succulents a few years ago, because I didn't know they were dormant and I didn't know they weren't growing in the winter as much as the summer. And I was literally watering these like once every 3 weeks to a month versus, you know, once a week to twice a week in the summertime. So just watch that when the weather changes, you guys. If you have any questions at all, I'm always here for you, and I'd love to help you in any way I can. Thank you so much for stopping by and bearing with us while we are in the process of moving here. We're going to take you guys along with us and show you how we pack everything up and move everything. So stay tuned for more videos to come. We have a lot here out in the garden coming to you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Bye-bye.